39-28 victory over Northwestern here on Homecoming Bend. Penn State, this team, continues to evolve. Second half deficit, 11-point deficit heading into the fourth quarter. No problem for this team as they scored 22 points in the fourth quarter to Northwestern 0, and they have a huge come from behind victory going into the bye week right now. Ben, what impressed you most about the performance in the second half, whether it be from Matt McGloin, the defense, or just the overall team attitude? There was room for a letdown after the big 75-yard punt return by Venrick Mack with about 50 seconds to play in the third quarter that put Northwestern up 11, but clearly Penn State was able to show some resiliency today.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that were really good for Penn State. I think Matt McGloin obviously played a good game. He started a little slow, and he was able to make the plays when they needed him to. But I think the coaching stood out to me that there are a lot of Penn State teams over the past 10 or 15 years that wouldn't have won this game. They would have folded up after that punt return. And I think Bill O'Brien did a good job getting the guys back together and being like, there's a lot of game left to be played, and you're only down 11 points. You can make this up. And they went out and did that. They had 2 long drives that, ended up winning them the game. And I don't know how many times you could say that you weren't surprised to see them do that. I mean, obviously, Penn State doesn't have a long history of driving 60, 70 yards down the field, but those guys went out there and you thought that they could do it, and they did. So I think there's a lot to be said for that.
It was the way that Penn State drove down the field that really stood out to me. These were methodical 18-play drives, 16, 15-play drives that chewed up a lot of time and allowed their defense to buy some extra time on the sidelines and rest up. That impressed me most about all this. And just the fact that, Bill Belton, Coach O'Brien after the game said that the ankle wasn't bothering him. He took a kind of a late hit on the sideline into a trainer's table early. He wasn't much of a factor the rest of the way. Zach Zwinak got going. I think he carried almost 30 times. I think he finished with 28 carries for over 120 yards. He was the hot hand today. It's just amazing how guys are continuing to understand their role and really just step up when called upon and taking advantage of these opportunities. That is just huge for this team at this point.
Yeah, I think that not to take anything away from Belton, because he obviously has a lot of potential, but they have a lot of backs on their roster. And when Silas Red left for USC, Belton was the next guy in line, but he wasn't necessarily the obvious guy that was going to make those plays. And Zwinak, he's not a flashy runner by any stretch, but he lowers his shoulder and he's going to get you 4 or 5 yards, which when Bill O'Brien's prepared to play a 4-down game, 4 or 5 yards is huge for them.
This is, the fourth down play calling, the confidence that he has in the red zone and really on the other side of the 50, just is incredible to watch. Something we really haven't seen here too much. The fact that they're so ballsy to have confidence in those play calls in the right area, and then give them credit for executing them. I mean, the fourth down call, I think it was the fourth down call that they used to, I guess, initially go ahead.
Yeah.
I mean, you miss that call, or you kick a field goal. Well, now let's backtrack a little bit. You kick the field goal when they're down 11. You make it a one-possession game. At that point, it would still be an 8-point deficit. But you go for it and you get 6, and then you go for 2, and you cut it to 3. I mean, that's a critical juncture of the game, and they are just showing no
reserve
fear,
at all, or
no
any
fear.
fear. Yeah, I was standing down there on the sidelines deciding what I would have done if I was in Bill O'Brien's shoes, that close to the field, that close to the end zone. Obviously Ficken is kicked the ball better as of late, but you know that you're going to need 2 scores. It's just a matter of when you're going to get them. So I commend them for just going for the big score, because that could have turned the game, or more than a field goal would have. Northwestern could have just burned some clock, or it doesn't change the momentum quite as much. And the fact that they threw it, was surprising. I think it was a short yardage situation, and I just thought they were going to give it to Zordich and run it right up the middle or something like that. But they didn't, and it's impressive to see.
Well, we're at the halfway point of the season. They're 4-2. They obviously lost the opening 2 against Ohio and Virginia. Now they're sitting at 4-2. Still unbeaten in the Big Ten. They get a bye week. obviously, given the sanctions, Penn State has nothing to play for that's tangible at this point in terms of a Big Ten championship or any type of postseason game. But, this team has stayed relevant in the Big Ten because of the way they play and because of Bill O'Brien. And, what is next for this team? I mean, what at this point do they have to prove to people? I mean, Coach O'Brien, I think a lot of people might say he should be a candidate for Coach of the Year right now in the Big Ten, certainly up there with Urban and Ohio State. Ironically, I guess the two schools that really don't have any shot at a championship. But what's the next step for this team in the second half?
I think finishing strong. I think that Penn State has a lot to play for in the sense that they're continuously fighting through these sanctions. They're going to be fighting against teams that just have more scholarship players. They're fighting to get recruits in here that might be looking at an Ohio State or Wisconsin or Nebraska. And, if they can finish out the year strong, Christian Hackenberg, obviously, right now he says he's 100% committed to the Lions. But, if Penn State loses the rest of their games for the remainder of the season, you wouldn't blame him if he changed his mind. So, they're playing for recruits. They're playing for pride. And I saw some people online saying that they obviously have to go and win at Iowa after a bye week, and trap game will be the word of the next 14 days or so. But if they can win that game, Ohio State here at night will be in a lot of ways they said their national championship game, and maybe it doesn't have that sort of implications. And there's lots of games down the road from after that, but that's the big game for them, and you can win the division, and that's something to hang your hat on.
Well, we'll close with just a couple of notes. Bill Belton limited today, but that, I guess, as Coach O'Brien said, was how the game dictated it. I mean, Zwinek was the hot hand, so I wouldn't read too much into that. I think he's fine. He did take a late hit on the sideline in the first quarter, but he should be okay. Pete Massaro returned to action out there. He's feeling good every day. He gets an injection before every game that allows him to actually play through this pain. So that's a real positive sign for him going forward. And he felt great out there today. I talked to him afterwards. He said he's really using today as a positive step going forward, that he was able to get through this pretty clean. The one area of concern, if there is one, I would take away is maybe Stephon Morris. If you remember, there's a defensive PI called on him in the first half, and he called it a helmet-to-helmet hit. He had to, he said, his eyes kind of went blank. He was a little blurry up there. He got tested on the sidelines. He was able to make it back out there today. He was evaluated at halftime and then after the game. He says he's okay, but with those helmet-to-helmet deals, you just never know if something may materialize ahead in the next few days. But fortunately, the bye week is here at a good time, so he's got 2 weeks to rest up and kind of work his way back from that. So I don't anticipate that being any real concern moving forward. But we will see you hopefully Wednesday from the practice fields. Penn State practicing the bye week. We should note Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then depending on how practice goes this week, they'll see their schedule lay out the rest of the week. Bill O'Brien said really no bloodbath type practice this week. Kind of take it easy, rest up the bumps and bruises, and guys will get a chance to get out of here over the weekend if they so choose. I'm sure too. So we will see you next week. For Ben Jones, I'm Nate Mink from Beaver Stadium. Penn State wins 39-28. See ya.